But first, to Donald Trump's history with the intelligence community. It's no stretch to suggest it's not exactly been, as he might say, a beautiful relationship. You remember back in January when he tweeted about intel leaks to the media and asked if we were living in Nazi Germany. Then a couple of weeks later, he attacked the media as he stood in front of that CIA memorial wall, a sacred space meant to honor fallen agents. And then this morning, he was at it again, tweeting at 5:15 in the morning, such amazing reporting on unmasking the crooked scheme against us by Fox and Friends, spied on before nomination, the real story. Then at 7:51, Fox News from multiple sources, there was electronic surveillance of Trump and people close to Trump. This is unprecedented. And you should note he tweeted at the FBI at the end there to make sure they saw it. What the president was talking about was a report this morning from Fox's Adam Housley, who cited a, quote, well-known, high-up, very senior intelligence source and others, claiming, quote, there was electronic surveillance of Trump and the people close to Donald Trump, including some supporters for up to a year before inauguration. Intelligence officials have not confirmed any evidence of those wiretapping and surveillance claims, but as the congressional panels continue their investigations, former National Security Advisor Mike Flynn has agreed to testify if he is granted immunity, a request raising questions of its own. Joining me is the former Director of Central Intelligence and Deputy Secretary of Defense under Bill Clinton, John Deutch, who is now a professor at MIT. It's a pleasure to meet you. Thanks so much for being here.
I'm pleased to be here.
Can we talk about the environment first? I know that the tens of thousands of people beneath the top of that pyramid where you used to sit are loyal, patriotic Americans. How hard is it for them to perform their job every day when they know that their work is being disparaged by the commander-in-chief?
Well, it's completely ununderstandable by me. Everybody in the CIA or other intelligence agencies wants the president to succeed, no matter which president. They don't go around trying to undercut the president. They try to support every president.
And their work doesn't suffer. And again, I'm not disparaging at all these career people who have given their lives to this. I just know as a human being, it's hard for me to do something when my work product is generated for somebody who doesn't respect what I do. It doesn't affect the quality of their work, you don't think?
Certainly it affects the quality of their work. I would like to point out that Trump's appointment, one of his very first appointment was for the Director of Central Intelligence. Right. Mike Pompeo, and I think he's an outstanding choice for director. Dan Coats, who he's nominated to be the Director of National Intelligence, is also a very reasonable choice.
But neither of those men have been able to stop him from disparaging the intelligence community at absolutely every single turn he can.
Well, we have to be patient and see what happens. Intelligence is important for the country, so bickering isn't helping anybody.
Can we talk about Russia for a second? Dick Cheney, whom I rarely quote, I should say, said that he thought that interference alone, which is all that's been demonstrated so far, we don't know about any of this collusion issue, was tantamount to being an act of war by Russia in the election. Do you share the former vice president's perspective?
Roughly speaking, I do. I think that if a country, any country, I don't know any of the circumstances in this particular case of Russia, interferes in the elections of this country, I do think that that is a covert action against our democracy, and it is tantamount to an act of war. What we do about it is another story, but I do think that involvement in our political system with the intent to influence an election is very much what I would call.
Let's spend a second on that other story, though. What should we be doing about that? What should a president be doing about that?
He should be being careful. I don't know whether this president will be careful, but there are choices. And remember, if you think about it from the Russian point of view, which every director of Central Intelligence tends to do, they might see many of our actions as trying to influence their country. So there's got to be a balance here, but it's completely unacceptable behavior.
Do you have confidence that the intelligence committees in Congress have the ability to get to the bottom of this? I mean, the House side is led by this Congressman Nunes, who I think has totally disgraced himself. But it seems to me that was there a fly going by here caught your attention?
The thought certainly went by.
It was a little
fast.
drone. But I think Senator Burr and Senator Warner, the co-chair, the chair and the ranking member of the Senate, have acted like grown-ups in a world with almost grown-up free. Do you have confidence in their ability to get to the bottom of this?
Let me say to you that if you don't have the two intelligence committees in the House and the Senate working together in a bipartisan way to review intelligence operations and activities, then this country's in deep trouble.
If the two committees don't work well together?
No. In each committee.
Oh, within each committee.
The bipartisan in each committee. And there's been troubles with that during the Obama administration, certainly in the Senate committee, with respect to enhanced interrogations, where there was a split, partisan split. So the most important thing, and so far I believe it's holding firm, is that each committee has to behave in a completely bipartisan way. Very important.
So the smoke is there. There's no question. There's confirmation by all except the most Trumpian of souls that there was an attempt at interference. As now, I guess, an outsider who used to be inside, is there fire on this collusion thing as far as you can see?
What collusion thing? There's much collusion.
Well, the collusion thing that some people in the Trump campaign may have colluded with Russian officials, at least in some level of the hierarchy, to try to affect the outcome of November 8th.
I don't have any evidence on this. I would think it quite unlikely.
Quite unlikely. You say that anybody in the Trump campaign. Why do you say quite unlikely?
Because
I don't think preposterous
that they would. I mean, what part of this question are you really interested in? Did they purposely try to get the Russians to intervene?
Did they work with the Russians to intervene?
I think that's not reasonable.
Why do you say it's not reasonable?
I say it because I believe it.
I'll try one more time. Why do you believe it? Why would it be, when you read about the connections that Paul Manafort had, that Roger Stone had, that Carter Page had, why do you think it's unlikely they take it one step further?
You read too many papers. The question is what really happened, and we don't know that.
Can we step away from people who the president doesn't trust, the intelligence community, to one person he trusts, I would argue too much, namely his son-in-law? He's in Iraq today at the invitation of the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. He's leading an effort on China. He's going to bring peace to the Middle East. Mexico is his project as well. Does it concern you that a man who has no government or virtually no foreign policy experience has put this much confidence in a man who has no government and virtually no foreign policy experience?
By no means. Once again, I'll draw your attention to the fact that we want people to succeed. We want the president to succeed. And his son-in-law has been given very important assignments, and I hope that he carries them out well and he carries them out honestly. I don't have any reason to believe that he won't do
And if
that.
you were Rex Tillerson, would you be saying the same thing?
I think Rex Tillerson will also turn out to be a very excellent Secretary
No, but I
of
meant
State.
about Jared Kushner, in my estimation at least, maybe not yours, being essentially a shadow Secretary of State, no?
Well, many presidents have had shadow secretaries of state. This is not the first time. I wouldn't call what I understand his assignments to be a shadow secretary of state. I do think that Secretary Tillerson would do well if he was given some appointments, if there had been a deputy secretary of defense, undersecretary of defense is nominated.
Elliot Abrams was stopped.
Those kinds of, that would help Elliot, or that would help the secretary very much.
I hope your confidence is more correct than my cynicism. It's a pleasure to meet you. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. John Deutsch.